I remember it like it was yesterday, child, though the years have weighed heavy since then. It was the summer your grandpa and I thought we'd finally treat ourselves to something more than the four walls of our little house. We'd been through some hard seasons, and your grandpa said we needed to breathe different air, to see skies that stretched further than the telephone wires of town. So we loaded up that creaky old Winnebago RV, white paint peeling at the corners, fridge humming like a stubborn mule, and we pointed north toward Montana. Montana? Have you ever seen skies so wide they make you feel small as an ant? The mountains rise up like sleeping giants, snow clinging to their tops even in July, while the valleys roll out green and endless. I felt my lungs open just looking out the window, felt hope press against my ribs like it was trying to break free. We thought we were chasing peace. What we found was something else entirely. We parked near Flathead Lake, away from the crowded campgrounds. Your grandpa never liked noise, said the whole point of a trip was to get away from people. So we chose a little clearing. Nothing around us but pine trees, whispering in the wind, the water glinting silver in the distance, and the smell of wood smoke from our small campfire. We ate beans and bacon that night, simple food, but it tasted like heaven out there. I thought to myself, maybe this trip will stitch us back together. But peace, I've learned, is a fragile thing. It can be stolen in a heartbeat. It was after midnight when I heard it, crunch of boots on gravel. At first I thought it was a deer or maybe a bear nosing about, but then came the voices, low, sharp, with laughter that didn't belong to joy but to cruelty. Out of the shadows stepped 3 men. They weren't campers. They weren't hikers. You could see it in their eyes, the wild look of men running from something. The tallest one, with a tangled beard and eyes too calm for the moment, smiled like a wolf. "Evening, folks," he said, though there was nothing polite about it. His 2 buddies fanned out behind him. One carried a shotgun like it was part of his body. The other twirled a hunting knife slow and deliberate, letting the firelight glint off its edge. Your grandpa stood, shoulders stiff, but voice steady. "We're just out here camping. Don't want no trouble." The bearded man's smile widened. "Trouble's already here." And just like that, child, the night shifted. The trees felt closer, the fire too small. They stepped into our circle of light and took control, like it was theirs all along. They told us straight. They'd knocked over a gas station in Billings. Killed a man, too. Though the way they said it was like stepping on a bug. They needed a hideout, food, cash, and a ride that wouldn't raise suspicion. And we, quiet campers by a lake, were exactly what they needed. They herded us into our own RV, sat us down like prisoners at our own table. They emptied your grandpa's wallet, took the emergency money I'd hidden in a coffee can, even rifled through my purse like vultures. One of them opened the fridge and whooped at the sight of bacon, eggs, and milk. They cracked beers and laughed like it was their housewarming party. I sat stiff, my hands folded in my lap so they wouldn't tremble. Your grandpa squeezed my knee under the table. That squeeze said what words couldn't. Hold on, stay calm, wait. The night dragged. They drank, played cards, argued over where to go. Every so often, one of them let his eyes linger on me, and I felt my stomach knot tighter. I prayed they'd see us as tools, not toys. When morning came, gray and damp, the bearded leader announced we'd be their chauffeurs. "Less suspicious that way," he said. 3 outlaws in the woods. Easy prey. But a friendly old couple driving an RV down the highway? Invisible. So your grandpa drove, knuckles white on the wheel, while I sat beside him pretending to trace routes on the map. Behind us they lounged like kings, rifles within arm's reach, at a rest stop near Missoula, They let me stretch my legs, though one of them, the knife man, shadowed me close. Inside the restroom, I caught the eye of a woman washing her hands. My lips wouldn't dare move, but I let my face speak. Fear is a language you can't fake. The woman's eyes widened just before the knife man yanked my arm and pulled me back. I didn't know if she'd act, but I clung to the hope. Sometimes hope is all you've got. Hours passed. No patrol cars. No rescue. Maybe she doubted what she saw. Maybe help was far behind. That second night, they parked us deep in the woods. Built a fire, passed a bottle, laughed too loud. I studied them. The leader's confidence, the drunk one's sloppiness, the knife man's constant vigilance. I memorized where they set their rifles, how they moved, how quickly drink dulled their senses. By the time we lay on the narrow RV bed, your grandpa whispered, "Tomorrow. We outsmart 'em tomorrow." His breath was warm on my ear, but his words were ice. Morning smelled of pine and smoke. The leader barked orders, said we were heading toward Kalispell. That's when your grandpa's hand brushed mine. The smallest gesture, but it meant everything. When the RV rattled back onto the dirt road, he jerked the wheels sudden, throwing them off balance. Rifles clattered to the floor. I lunged, kicked the knife under the seat. We bolted for the door, sprinting into the trees, branches clawing, hearts racing. For a breath, I thought we might make it. Freedom tasted so close I could almost drink it. But then, a shout, heavy boots, the crack of branches. They were on us. The knife man's rifle slammed into your grandpa's back, dropping him to his knees. Another blow caught my shoulder, fire shooting through me. We were dragged back, stumbling, choking on fear. Inside the RV again, the leader's face was twisted with rage. "Think you can play games with us?" He spat, and the rifle butt crashed into your grandpa's ribs. I screamed, begged them to stop. They only laughed, a sound colder than the Montana night. That evening they bound us, wrists tight and mouths dry. No food, just enough water to keep us alive. The hunger clawed at my belly. My lips cracked from thirst. Every hour stretched like a year, and I wondered if we'd ever see morning. But somewhere out there, the world was stirring. That woman at the rest stop had called. A patrol officer had found the ditch where our RV swerved, had spotted the knife I'd kicked under the seat. Piece by piece, the trail was forming. And though we didn't know it, help was on its way. That night is seared into me, child. Not for what I saw, but for what I felt. Hunger is one thing, but the way it strips you of dignity, the way it makes you question if you'll ever eat again, that's a kind of torture words don't quite cover. They tied us with rough rope, hands behind our backs, shoved us onto the RV floor like sacks of grain. The leader barked at his men to keep watch, but soon enough their laughter dulled to snores. Your grandpa lay beside me, his breathing shallow from the rifle blows. I shifted as close as the ropes allowed, whispering, "And hold on, just hold on." He gave me the smallest nod, but even that seemed to cost him. I felt his ribs stutter against my shoulder, and fear cut deeper than hunger. The RV stank of sweat, spilled beer, and smoke. I listened to the creak of the old frame, the rustle of a man shifting in his sleep, the soft click of the knife man polishing his blade even in the dark. As every sound was a threat, every breath a countdown. At one point, the drunk one staggered to his feet, muttering curses, and poured himself another drink. He caught me watching, his eyes glassy. "What you staring at, old woman?" He slurred, then laughed to himself. He waved the bottle, then collapsed back into his seat. That laugh still haunts me, child. It was the sound of someone who'd forgotten what mercy even meant. Hours crawled by. My stomach twisted, gnawing itself, but worse was the thirst. My tongue felt like leather, my lips cracked until they bled. I kept thinking about water, cool streams, even a single ice cube. It drove me half mad, but out there, beyond the trees, the world was moving. The patrol car that had spotted the tire tracks near the ditch hadn't brushed it off. The officer got out, knelt down, and studied the marks. He saw the churned mud, the skid that spoke of panic, not a simple stop. And then his flashlight beam caught metal. My desperate kick had flung the knife far enough that it lay glittering in the dirt. He bagged it, frowned, and called it in. They sent word ahead, piecing together reports. That woman at the rest stop, they'd found her, confirmed she'd seen me pulled by the arm, my face pleading though my mouth said nothing. The net was starting to form, though inside the RV we knew nothing but pain and silence. The criminals grew restless by dawn. The leader paced like a caged lion, snapping at his men. We moved today. Cops will be sniffing. He eyed us like dead weight. I felt my heart sink. Dead weight doesn't get carried far. Dead weight gets cut loose. Your grandpa coughed, a wet sound that scared me more than the rifles. He tried to sit straighter, tried to keep his pride, but the bruises painted across his ribs told the truth. I whispered again, "Hold on," though my own strength was draining fast. They finally tossed us a single bottle of water, warm and half empty. We shared it like it was holy wine, each sip burning down my throat like salvation. It wasn't enough, but it was something. As the sun climbed, the men argued louder. Canada, Idaho, even doubling back. They had no plan, only fear. The drunk one wanted to shoot us and dump us in the woods. The knife man shook his head, said dead bodies would draw heat. The leader cursed them both, shouted that we'd stay alive as cover until he said otherwise. That was the only thing keeping us breathing. By midday, we were back on the road, the RV rattling west. I watched the trees blur past, praying someone, anyone, would notice. And someone did. A patrol car passed the other way, slowed, turned around. The officer had been briefed. Old Winnebago, possible hostages. He fell back, called for backup, and shadowed us without sirens. Inside the RV, tension was snapping like dry twigs. The knife man noticed first, peering through the back window. "Car's been tailing us," he muttered. The leader cursed, ordered your grandpa to speed up. But our old RV wasn't built for speed. The engine wheezed, shuddered, rattled like bones in a tin can. I saw it in their eyes then. Child the panic, the cracks in their armor. For the first time, fear was theirs, not mine. The RV rattled like it was holding its last breath, every bolt shaking as the men barked orders at your grandpa. "Faster, old man," the leader snarled, slamming the butt of his rifle against the dash. Your grandpa kept his eyes on the road, jaw clenched, but I saw the sweat rolling down his temple. He knew as well as I did that our Winnebago couldn't outrun a patrol car. The drunk one stumbled back and forth, cursing under his breath, swigging from his bottle as if the whiskey could drown his fear. The knife man crouched by the back window, eyes darting. "They're still there," he growled. The leader whipped around, his voice sharp as broken glass. "Shut up and watch! If they make a move, we'll dump these two first." He jabbed his rifle toward us, and I swear my blood turned to ice. I kept my eyes low, my hands folded like I was praying, but inside my head a storm was raging. Every bump of the road, every turn of the tires, I wondered, is this it? Will this be the place they pull us out and leave us to rot? Then came the flashing lights in the distance. Just a glimpse, a flicker of red and blue reflected on the trees ahead. Backup had arrived. The criminals saw it too. Panic erupted. The leader cursed, shouting at your grandpa to turn off, to take the dirt road cutting into the woods. The RV lurched as he obeyed, tires spitting gravel, engine screaming. We barreled into the forest, branches scraping the windows, the whole frame rocking like it might come apart. Behind us, the patrol stayed close, careful, and steady. I could almost feel their eyes watching, calculating, and waiting for the right moment. Inside the RV, madness grew. The drunk one, wild-eyed, waved his shotgun at the leader. "We're done, man! We're cooked! Should have left these two back there." His voice cracked, the bottle slipping from his hand and smashing on the floor. The sharp stink of alcohol filled the air. The knife man shoved him, snarling, "Sit down before you blow our heads off." The leader struck them both with his rifle stock, screaming for silence. For a moment, the RV was chaos, shoving, shouting, curses filling the air. And in that chaos, child, I felt something I hadn't in days. Hope. Because fear was no longer ours alone. It had turned on them, was eating them alive. The dirt road narrowed, thick trees pressing in. The RV skidded, slammed against a rut, nearly tipped. My head cracked against the window, stars exploding in my vision. I bit my lip to keep from crying out, knowing any sound might draw their fury back on us. Then, sudden silence. The leader ordered the engine killed. The RV wheezed and died, the forest wrapping us in a suffocating hush. "Out!" The leader hissed. "We're taking them deeper." They yanked us to our feet, shoving us into the trees. My legs trembled, my shoulder screamed from the bruise. But I stumbled forward, your grandpa's arm brushing mine. Even beaten and bent, he kept his spine straight. We trudged through pine needles, the smell of sap sharp in the air, the ground uneven. Behind us, faint but growing, came the crunch of other boots, steady, trained. The patrol was closing in. The knife man glanced back, his voice sharp. "They're following. We gotta split up." The drunk one shook his head, panic wide in his eyes. "We'll never make it. They'll shoot us down." "Shut your mouth," the leader snapped, jabbing him with the rifle. His calm was gone now, replaced with a wild edge, desperation clawing at him. They dragged us into a shallow ravine, half hidden by brush. The leader pushed us to the ground. "We wait here. If they find us, the old man and the lady go first." I lay in the dirt, cheek pressed to the earth, the taste of copper in my mouth. Your grandpa shifted closer, his breath ragged but steady. He whispered so soft I barely caught it. "Not much longer. They'll find us." And I believed him, child. For all the terror, all the pain, I believed him. Because I had to. Minutes stretched like hours. The forest held its breath. Every snapping twig set the knife man on edge, his blade flashing as he turned in circles. The drunk one muttered to himself, rocking, clutching his shotgun like it was a child's toy. The leader crouched, eyes darting, sweat dripping into his beard. And then, voices, clear, commanding. "Sheriff's Department! Drop your weapons!" The clearing exploded into motion. The leader grabbed me, yanking me upright, and his rifle digging into my ribs. "Back off!" he roared into the trees. "I'll shoot her. You hear me?" The knife man pressed his blade against your grandpa's throat, his hand shaking. The drunk one waved his shotgun wildly, eyes darting like a trapped animal. From the trees, the officers held their ground. "Put the weapons down! You've got nowhere to go!" My heart thundered, child. For a breath, I thought that was it, that we'd be the sacrifice in their final stand. The cold steel of the rifle dug deeper into my ribs, and for the first time I felt the sharp edge of surrender creeping into my bones. The leader's voice thundered through the trees. "One step closer and she's dead." His hand trembled just enough for me to feel it, and that, child, told me more than his words ever could. He was breaking. The officers stayed steady, voices calm, almost gentle. "No one has to get hurt. Let them go, and we can talk." The forest swallowed the words, holding them like a promise. The knife man, jittery and sweating, pressed harder against your grandpa's neck. But your grandpa, stubborn, unshaken, lifted his chin and locked eyes with me. He wasn't afraid. Not then, not ever. The drunk one was unraveling fastest. His shotgun wavered, his breathing ragged. "We're dead either way," he cried. "They'll gun us down." His voice cracked, and tears streaked through the dirt on his cheeks. He dropped the shotgun, hands shaking, and stumbled backward. The knife man cursed him, but the moment was slipping. The drunk one's surrender lit a fire in the trees. Officers surged closer, steps careful but sure. "Drop it!" they barked. The knife man's blade shook at your grandpa's throat. I could see the war inside him, fear eating him alive. With a snarl, he shoved your grandpa down and bolted into the brush. Shouts rang out, the chase tearing away into the forest. That left the leader. His arm tightened around me. The barrel pressed so hard I couldn't breathe. His voice cracked with rage. "Back off or she dies!" The officers didn't flinch. "It's over!" one called. "Let her go." I felt his breath on my ear, ragged, desperate. His grip slipped just enough for me to twist, my shoulder slamming back into his chest. He stumbled, just for a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, the rifles of the patrol locked in. "Don't move!" He froze. I could feel it. The fight draining out of him. The weight of the net closing tight. His rifle clattered to the dirt. His knees hit next. And just like that, the storm was over. They pulled me free. Your grandpa lifted gently to his feet. Hands steady, voices calm. They wrapped us in blankets, pressed canteens into our hands. Water never tasted so sweet, child. I drank like a woman reborn. The forest sighed as if it too had been holding its breath. Behind us, the criminals were dragged in one by one, cuffed, cursing, broken. The drunk one sobbing, the knife man bloodied from his flight, the leader silent at last, and his eyes hollow. We rode out in silence, the flashing lights cutting through the Montana dark. I held your grandpa's hand the whole way, bruised though it was, and I swore I'd never let it go again. That night carved something into me, child. Not fear, not hate, but truth. Evil doesn't always come with warning. It can stumble into your camp, sit at your fire, and smile as it sharpens its blade. But so does salvation. Sometimes it's the boot print in the mud, the woman who sees when no one else is looking, and the steady hands of strangers who refuse to let darkness win. We came home changed. The bruises faded, the scars healed, but the lesson stayed. That hope, no matter how small, can outlast the night. That even when the forest closes in, there are still lights that will find you. And that, my dear, is why I tell you this story. Because survival isn't just about strength or courage. It's about holding on long enough for help to reach you. And we did. By God, we did.